Welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife, and this week we're going to do something a little bit more fun. Last week's episode was rather serious, and so a little more lighthearted. I got to recently go see the movie Top Gun Maverick, and with my husband, we've heard great things from all of our friends about it, and it was a great opportunity. Loved it. Did not disappoint at all. Enjoyed every minute. And so I wanted to just kind of share some things, give you a little bit of a spoiler review. Going to admit there will be spoilers. And talk about the military involvement in the production of the movie. So I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you are listening to Life of a Military Wife. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. Before I go total fangirl on the movie, which I easily can, I will confess I have never seen the original Top Gun. I know that's appalling to a lot of people, and I will probably rectify that in the near future. However, I have yet to do that. But regardless, having never seen the original Top Gun, I was able to totally walk into that movie theater, not be lost, enjoy every minute, and have a blast. So you don't have to have seen the original to enjoy the sequel, which is always advantageous for individuals like me, who have not seen every movie known to man. But I want to talk about, just to start off, there were some technical errors. Every time a military family goes and sees a movie, specifically, oh my goodness, when I go and watch military movies with my husband, 90% of the time he's like, that is so not how it's done. Oh my goodness, that's not real. Oh, we would never do that. There's always a commentary going down. And honestly, I do the same thing with him because I do have a background in historical dress and costuming. And so there are movies where it'll be a period piece. I'm like, oh, they would have never worn that. And so we do it to each other, to be completely fair and honest. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and just a few things that the runway issue at the very beginning, this is not very spoilery, this is like the first 5 minutes. They would never put a runway pointing towards a guard station for the very reason they show in the movie. That is just not a safe flight path. And then second of all, there is a minimum flight deck. They talk about it through the whole rest of the movie. So why on earth he blows the flight deck and rips the roof temporarily off the guard station, I don't know. But anyway, that would get you in trouble. So the other thing that has been brought up is that why they didn't use the F-35C, and that's one of the stealth capable jets that we have. And I really loved one of the consultants who was a Marine Top Gun instructor consultant previous, he's retired. He was talking in one of his interviews that the huge reason they didn't do that is because they needed to have the F-18 so that they could have an actual Navy pilot flying while the actors were in it pretending to be flying while it was flying to make it look as realistic as possible. And so the only jet that we've got that does that, fighter jet we have that does that, is the F-18. That's the only one that's got a two-seater. And so that is the reason why they had to use the F-18. So they came up with a reasonable plot hole or excuse, that there was jamming on the area, and so that the other weapons systems would have been negated. And he's like, yeah, that's a stretch. I don't know. The consultant, the Marine pilot, said that was a stretch. He didn't quite believe that. But, they established it from the beginning of the movie, so it's not like you can totally suspend that disbelief. It's fine. The other issue is Iceman's character is supposedly going through his second round of cancer, and he's still in a command position. That would not happen. At least in every instance I've ever encountered, if you get cancer, you're medically retired the first time, not the second time. And you would not be left in that demanding of a command position while fighting cancer to that extent. So Iceman would have never been in that position. But at the same time, it was great having him there and having that buddy, camaraderie sort of thing going down. So again, for the point of the story, it was fine. It was not practical to the way things would actually be handled, but that's fine. Another issue is the uniforms. And I honestly did not notice this. But I'm going to be completely sincere. As a military spouse, I'm not OCD about uniforms. I don't be like, oh my goodness, that medal shouldn't be there. It should be there, and that shouldn't be there, and that patch should be there. I don't worry about that stuff. Honestly, it's nah. Whenever my husband's uniform has to be reset, that gets done professionally. I don't bother myself or stress myself out about that because there is way too much to know. But I mean, as military personnel will be, some people did notice that there were certain inconsistencies, specifically with Cyclone and Iceman's uniforms. Evidently, Cyclone, his is just weird. It's all over the place. And Iceman had two ribbons that he should have only had one of because you would never have two of that one. Anyway. And a lot of people were online, writing this off as, oh, well, it's against the law for them to wear accurate uniforms because that's stolen valor and all that stuff. That's not the case. I found actually in one of the articles, it actually has the criminal code in it. And it says, while portraying a member of the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, or Space Force, an actor in a theatrical or motion picture production may wear the uniform of that armed force if the portrayal does not tend to discredit that armed force. So they actually are allowed to wear completely accurate uniforms. But if they spent a ton of money on equipment and being able to be in the F-18s and all that other stuff. I can see why they didn't drop as much money on making sure that the ribbon racks were perfect. Because in all sincerity, you're not looking at them that long. I mean, if you can freeze frame or get a still shot, yeah, you're going to notice that stuff, but I didn't notice it. It didn't pull me out of the movie, so I wasn't concerned with that. Now this goes into what they spent their money on, which is the naval involvement. They were able to use the USS Abraham Lincoln and the USS Theodore Roosevelt while they were in refit in San Diego, or maintenance. Yes, they were docked for maintenance. And so it was not interfering with military operations because they were already on maintenance, but they were able to use them. They paid for the time of 20 Marines to be in the funeral and for the flyover for the funeral. They paid for the use of Landmore and China Lake, Naval Air Station, North Island. And they had to pay per flight hour to film inside the FA-18s, Super Hornets. And they used they had like 6 special cameras. So they're not making faces. Like when you see them flying, that's what the G-force actually does to you. Like this is legit. And these actors, oh my goodness, they had to run their own cameras. They had to check their own lighting and everything. So they got some major skills from working on this. And then they were joking. They're like, dude, we had to do like pilot diets. Like they had to be on special diets because they kept getting sick in the air, and so they would like watch what they ate. They were exercising all the time so that they would be able to sustain the pressure of the G-forces on their bodies. Because evidently when they did the first, and I only found this out by watching some documentaries, when they did the first first Top Gun, they had wanted to do the same thing kind of that they were doing with this one and get the actors filmed in there. But the only actor that didn't pass out in the cockpit like all the time was Tom Cruise. So most of the actors they had to like, finagle things. But this one, you're actually seeing them pull the actual maneuvers that they're actually talking about. They really experienced all of these maneuvers. And then only Tom Cruise took off from one of the carriers. Everyone else took off from land. And then they had to do an underwater training. And I was looking everywhere. I did hear it in one of the documentaries I watched, or one of the interviews I watched, the name of the actual specific underwater training. And when I went back to get the name for this, I couldn't find it. So I apologize in advance. But basically, it was a special type of underwater training where they blindfold you, they submerge you, and then they flip you over, and then you have to find your way out and up to the air. And just different things like that. So that if they did crash in the process of filming, they would be able to escape the plane and get to safety. So, and that was a lot. Like that's a lot that the Navy did. And this was one of the times where the Navy flat out said that it was at no cost to the taxpayers. The crew paid for all of these things. Tom Cruise was devastated because they did not let him fly the F-18 Super Hornet, or FA-18 Super Hornet. He is a licensed pilot. He has his own P-51 Mustang, and he did fly that in the movie. He gets to fly it with one of the other actresses and do like a whole scene and everything. So, and that's actually his P-51 Mustang he's flying. He's, I think, certified to fly helicopters. Anyway, he really wanted to actually fly the F-18 Hornet at one point, and that was turned down, Super Hornet. But anyway, FA-18. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm dropping parts of that name. Hopefully you all know what I'm meaning. But it was just... So yeah, the Navy was very heavily involved. And part of the reason why the Navy was like, yup, pay us, we'll do this, let's figure this out. After the first Top Gun Maverick came out, and I've seen this statistic in a couple different places, basically naval recruiting increased by 500%. So the Navy they did get script approval, and there were some things that got changed, but they were little things. And one of the consultants that they had, the DoD did get complete script approval, and they do with all the military movies that they actually allow the military to facilitate the production of. There were some small changes. I think one of the call signs was an Air Force call sign and not a naval call sign, and so that got changed. There were just a couple principles and stuff that they're like, no, you really need to hit this hard. This is a huge thing. That just listening to the interview of the Marine pilot who was a Top Gun instructor who consulted on the movie, it was really cool because he broke down a lot of the different like flying sequences, and he's like, oh yeah, we would totally use this for this, and we would use that for that, and like the flying inverted thing, he's like, that's not showing off. If you're going up and over something, you fly inverted because then the G's are pulling in your body in the right direction, and so you're less likely to black out, and you can get eyes on target faster. So like it was really, really interesting to hear his perspective and breaking down all of the different aspects of the mission that they run in the movie. There are some things that's just not procedurally how it would happen. Like, another interview I saw, there was a SEAL team expert, and he was like, I was watching the movie, and he gets downed, and I'm like, sweet, now they're going to send in the SEALs, and, well, no, Tom Cruise just gets out of it, because that's what Tom Cruise does. So he's like, I guess they're trying to highlight, sorry for the little stutter there, naval aviation, so yeah, they're not going to send in the SEALs to steal the show. So, or at least that's what the one SEAL was joking about. So, but yeah, they would typically search and rescue would be more SEALs. They wouldn't send in other pilots. But again, like I said, this is a spoiler review. I'm just telling you everything. in just completely straight up loved the movie. It was really fun. As a military family, there are certain personalities that you see in this movie, and you're like, oh my gosh, we so know someone like that. Like, there really are all of those personalities in the military. I loved how they had a strong female pilot who was not pandered to, who did not treat the guys like dirt. She was literally one of the team. It was amazing. Phoenix is just, I think, a great character. She has flaws, she has things she needs to improve on, but she's obviously a kick butt pilot. And she is confident without being condescending. She is capable without being a Mary Sue. Like, this girl, this character was just written so well. And I'm like, that is how female characters need to be written. Because she wasn't like just being a total snot to all the men, and she wasn't just magically better than all the guys. Like, she was just a legit, realistic powerhouse. And so I loved that. And they had that with a lot of the different characters. There really was a lot of different representation on different types of people from different backgrounds and appearances and stuff. And they all had different personalities, which is realistic. Everyone does have a different personality. And yeah, some people got along better and some people didn't, which is realistic too in every unit. You're going to have people who get along better and people who don't get along as well. And it's learning how to work through that, which is important. And that is a huge part of what they talk about in this movie. And I think that's super realistic to military life. You are not going to be besties with everyone in every unit you ever serve in. That's just not going to be how it is. However, you can build a sense of camaraderie and trust if you have a good leadership and good cohesion and stuff. So I loved how they showed that. It was just, again, I'm gushing a little bit too much, but I really genuinely loved the movie. I loved the character development. I really do. I love Phoenix's character. She's great. I really love the reconciliation that happens with Rooster's character and Maverick. If you don't know this backstory, Rooster's dad was Maverick's, weapons guy. They basically flew together in an F-14, and he dies in the first movie. Total spoiler, sorry. He dies. And so Tom Cruise's character Maverick has tried to protect Rooster his whole life from his dad's fate. And part of it was because his mother asked him to do that. And I really love the line where he's like, he didn't need to hate two parents. Like, he basically felt like a second parent to this kid, and he was willing to be the bad guy, and because he didn't want him to hate his mom. And the thing that I love is they're able to reconcile the relationship, and he never has to still rat out the mom. And I know that, like, there might be people who are like, oh, he should have told him. That's just wrong. He needs to tell him that his mom didn't support him, blah, 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 blah. No, he doesn't. That's not really necessary. Like, the thing is, he needed to learn to believe in himself. And that was the real thing that Maverick was worried about, is that he did not see the level of self-confidence and that he needed to be a successful fighter pilot. And that Rooster's able to develop that self-confidence is the important thing. And they do mend their relationship, and they mend their relationship, which is the issue. Like, throwing the mom under the bus would have not helped anything. It would have just hurt things more. So anyway, I do love the lessons it talks about parenthood and responsibility and teamwork and supporting people and working through differences of personality, and not letting people down, like, really being there. Anyway, there's just a lot of really good themes in this movie. It's just well written. And again, like I said, I love how they show that these female pilots are completely capable women. But they're still very much women. Like, they are still very feminine. They're still very much, but they can do the job. And they're not condescending. I mean, a little snarky, because Phoenix and Hangman don't get along, and you can tell why for a long time why they did. Yeah. Hangman, oh my goodness, Hangman's character was so over the top. I will say that. He was really over the top. But at the same time, at the end, you're like, fine, I don't hate you. You're just obnoxious. I will have to say, I think one of my, the one character that I was actually worried about, all the other pilots, I was like, they can take care of themselves. They're totally capable. The one character that I was actually concerned for their safety was Bob. Like, I was genuinely worried that poor little Bob was going to get himself hurt because he's just a cute little nerd. He's just a cute little nerd in the movie. And so anyway, I really rambled a lot about this movie, but I genuinely enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, I would completely recommend going and seeing it. Seeing it in theaters was fantastic. And yeah, you should see it for first time in theaters, not on your phone. Please don't wait till it comes out and streaming and watch it on your phone. Watch it in the theaters. It was worth every penny. And yeah, you can tell it was great because it's done really well in the box office. So that's my feelings about Top Gun Maverick. And again, like I said, a little bit more lighthearted this week. I am trying to see if I can get an episode for next week pre-recorded before I go on vacation. If it doesn't happen, there'll be a week off, so enjoy it. Enjoy your 4th of July. Go see Maverick for the 4th of July. No, I'm just, you don't have to do that, but still. I hope you have an amazing 4th of July and you're able to spend it with your families and loved ones. And yeah. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and this is Life of a Military Wife.